y'all, it's Sarah, and I am completely unprepared for this video, but since I was already working on this and playing a little guessing game on how I was going to put this together, I thought I would just turn the camera on. If it turns out okay, great. If it doesn't, I'm still going to share it. So, I am trying to make a miniature entertainment center for my television, and just so you know, my television is made out of the glass out of this, a little bit of electrical tape, and a tumbling tower block, and that's pretty much all my TV is. I'm not sure if I did a video on this one because I was winging it when I did this one too, but that's what this TV is made out of, and that's what I'm trying to fit to. So I wanted to show you where I was going with this. Maybe it'll turn out okay. We'll find out together. So I'm gonna put my little TV to the side. Isn't that cute? Look, I gotta tell you, this may be my new favorite idea. And I don't know if it's catching right now, but I used a tiny red rhinestone down here for this button. And it always catches the light, so this thing looks like it's always on. It's pretty cute. Okay, let me jump into this because I'm super excited, and you can kind of tell a little ADHD on this. So these are the main components. I only have one of these left. These are all Dollar Tree items. It's pretty cool. Dollar Tree is now selling them like stacked. So there's a smaller version and a bigger version, but you guys kind of recognize these little signs. I'm using the outside version, but you could use a smaller version. Everything I'm doing works in my Barbie-sized houses. I'm also using 2 of these boxes. And I'll let you see the tag. This one has the star on it. It's going to give me a little bit of a workout to work around that star, but something else may work a little better. They've got some other designs on these little trays, but this one works for this, I think. We'll see. We're going to find out together. So I'm going to jump ahead. I painted the back side of one and the inside of the other. Save myself some paint. Just so you can see. Look how perfectly my little TV is going to fit in there. Whoa, it's so cute. It's so cute. So these work perfectly. I did figure out though that these boxes don't necessarily align perfectly. One's a little bigger than the other. But we're going to try to work around that because these are the ones I have in my craft stash. Got these. You can already start to see where we're coming together. Now, if you notice, I took a few cheats ahead of time before I decided I was going to turn on the camera and share with you guys. And one of those cheats was right in here where you would typically see the star or whatever impression they put in these trays. I went ahead and took some cardstock and cut to fit just right inside there on the insides, and I'm going to do something similar for the outsides because I want you to see. Now you could always pull your shelves forward to hide that, but where mine's going to be located, you would be able to see me pull it forward and there would be that gap. But if yours is going on a back side of a wall, you could always do it a little differently. I have to try to cover these little impressions here. So I have cut just some white cardstock that I'm going to fit in there and try to blend in. And because the edge that you see on mine is going to be this left edge, I'm definitely going to pay a little more attention and getting my alignment down this side. This right side will be further into my house. It'll be a little harder to see. Since these boxes aren't consistently made, you can kind of see there's a little bit of difference in the size there. I'm going to flip them the opposite way so that I can get the smoothness towards this front section. And I'm going to flip this over this way. Now, I know that I need the left side of mine to be the most flush. I'm going to go ahead and try to line it up this way before I adhere it. I'm just going to take a paint stick so that I can pull it over flush to the other side and kind of see where it's going to line up. That's important to me. It may not be important to you. They're pretty close though. I'm going to go ahead and using my new favorite glue, because this stuff is amazing. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Temu. This stuff is awesome. If you're doing miniatures, the adhesion, like it's for somebody like me who's a little shaky, who's a little unsure with my hands. This has a really good adhesion. It's not super messy. With hot glue, with wood glue, with all those things, I'm really messy with those things. I don't have good control. This one has helped me a lot. So I'm holding everything in place. I'm pushing everything up flush against these edges the best I can. And you can kind of see. So there is a little bit of a difference on this back side, which meant if I'd have glued it the other way, that little bit of a difference would have shown up on my front side. So now this side's a little more flush. And to handle that, I'm going to come in with a coffee stir stick, just I don't know what size these things are, but it's just at my grocery store. It's a little coffee stirrer sticks. I've already cut one down to hide that little variation, but at least now I know from the front side that's going to hit really flush there. I'm no professional at this, guys. So now that I've got those two running a little flush, I want to look at how this is going to line up. And this is what I wanted to show you. The star is still going to show. And I think there's a couple other shapes they do down the sides that would even show up like this. I'm going to have to account for that, and I'm going to have to try to hide it. And I'm just going to do that the same as I did on the interior with some white cardstock. You could probably come in with, let's see, do I have any of the wider, some of the wider tongue depressor craft sticks. And by that, I mean these big giant things. And they're pretty wide. I think they're like, they're about that wide. However, I really wanted these little side panels to hit super flush. And had I put anything there to hide that, I still would have had some kind of gap. You might can figure out a better way to do that. Fill it in with wood filler, and I'm still going to end up doing that at the end. But cardstock is going to work for me. And I cut cardstock. Literally all I did was stack both of these together and line my cardstock up with the side so I could see just how much I needed. I didn't want it to go too far over, and I wanted it pretty flush. So let's talk about what I'm going to do to get it pretty flush. I'm about to use just some literally generic white glue. And I'm going to put all the way across here. Okay, it's all the way across there, and you guys are about to see why my nails and my hands always look the way they do. I'm going to smooth that down a little, just using my fingers, so that there's no lumpy spots with that white glue. And I'm going to take my cardstock and do my best to pull it 100% forward, right against this part. Let me see how well that's connecting to it. So I've pulled it all the way against that edge. And I'll do the same thing with this side, even though there's like a little hair of a difference off. I'm still going to try to make it work. Quick tip that I just tried off camera. In order to make that work a little better, I just took something to sand it and smooth that down just a little bit. So it looks like when I go to do this side, I won't have the slight variation that I would have had I left it the way it was. Once again, I've got it super glued with just plain white glue. Taking my fingers, smoothing it across again. You could use a brush or whatever, but I kind of like, I'm tactile. I enjoy this part. I enjoy getting messy with my crafts. And I'm going to put this one in. And that definitely lines up a lot better right there as I go to smush that down. You can see how good that hides that off. So those edges will look a whole lot cleaner when I go to finish this up. Real quick, I wanted to show you that wherever I had a little bit of gap between the paper and how I glued it down, I'm taking just the plain white glue and sliding it and kind of pressing down across there. Now I've already painted all this white just to save me some time, and I still will have to go back in and paint over where I just did this. But now that white glue, once it dries, it's going to put kind of a protective area over that paper that I just covered on those edges, and I'll get a really consistent look all the way down. And I'm going to do it right here too. Can you see? There's glue all on the edge. And then I'll be able to come back in, sand it a little, come back in with some more white paint. All of that's going to look super smooth all the way down those sides. Okay, you guys can see how smooth out that looks now. It blends in perfectly. So I'm going to bring these guys in and start to get those aligned. And we're going this direction with them, and then we'll start adding some details. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere both of these to the sides. Actually, maybe I want to adhere it. I want to be able to move this pretty easily. So let's go ahead and get into the details. To do my shelves, I've just got some paint sticks that I cut down to shelves. I sanded them a little bit, got the edges a little smooth, and I'm going to pop those into place. And I'm not sure how many I'm going to use, so I went ahead, I've got 10 of them cut. And I wanted to add some kind of barn doors to it, you can see. And all I did to do these, I just went ahead and jumped ahead to get them to glue so they were pretty secure. But in order to do those, I wanted to show you a little cheat. I line them up. These are just Dollar Tree, the slightly larger popsicle sticks. And you can see here, here's a normal popsicle stick. These are the slightly wider ones, but not quite as big as these guys. You can kind of see that. So one of the things that I have found that makes this so much simpler is when I want to cut them down or adhere them together, I just take a little bit of masking tape and tape them off somewhere close to where it is I'm going to want to cut. And I don't really need this set, but I'm just going to show you anyway. So I've got those pretty secured. I would likely go ahead and this point and run my glue down between those cracks. And from this side, you can kind of bend them and run your glue in there and really get them secure together. But my favorite part about this is when you go to cut your popsicle sticks, especially if you're not the best at measuring everything perfectly. I'm just using a pair of Dollar Tree scissors here to cut through those. Now I've got them cut really evenly with one another. That made it so much faster to cut through them. I didn't have to stop and measure every single one. I could have just measured this out. And it gave me a really good way to try to get multiples done at one time. So it takes 3 of these to go across here, and this side I might have to trim down a little. It's a little bit wider. I may just leave it, but This side, I guess the popsicle sticks are slightly different, or maybe these things are slightly different. This side aligns so perfectly. I couldn't have done any better if I tried. So at this point, let's see. What am I doing lengthwise on these? Mine are about 4 inches. You could change them. You wouldn't have to put these at all. You could just put shelves all the way up and down. And I still have no clue what I'm doing in the center area. But I have some ideas. So, I'm going to go ahead and get these kind of set in place. And as I'm doing these, I'm going to make sure that one of my little shelves align right underneath there when I go to adhere it down, so that shelf lines up with that. Now these doors won't be movable, so really I'm losing that amount of space under there, but it was worth it to me to have the little kind of door sitting there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this glued into place underneath here, and go ahead and start with some other details, filling this in, hiding this out. So I got one done, and I wanted to show you a little trick that I found that made it easier. 2 of my little shelves, because I knew I had spares, I went ahead and connected in a letter T, and I got this in place, got it aligned, slid it flush, and I'm just going to take a little piece of wood to help slide it flush. Once I did, I moved this out of the way and I went ahead and glued that in place. As you can see, I've added a little more paint. I went in, and my shelves that were cut from paint sticks, I adhered those down and at least got one layer of paint started on those guys. And this is where I'm at this point. I did want to point out that the little gap between there, once I painted another layer or 2 of paint on here, those kind of filled in. So I don't think I'm going to use the trim work that I initially was going to use, but I got a lot of ideas to show you, and some of these are pretty fun. Now I know where I'm going with this, and I'm keeping mine pretty basic white, but I wanted to show some other ideas, and they start with a few things. This was one idea, and I'm not going to end up using this one because I am staying pretty basic, but I wanted to show you the same method that I use for the popsicle sticks here. You could absolutely have doors there, and I had considered going this route with the two-tone and the wood grain, but I've kind of backed off on that idea myself, but I wanted to share it. Some other things. So I'm pulling out several Dollar Tree zip ties, and I'm not sure what size these actually are. Let's see if I can get to my ruler here under all my mess. These are like their 8-inch zip tie, and they've got several sizes. These automatically come into black, and I wanted to show a few things with this. So first of all, I took just a pair of wire cutters and snip the tips on some of these, and you can see those laying here. I'm going to keep up with those. I'm going to also clip this little part off, and I'm butting it really close up against there and just snapping that right off, because you might want those components later. I'm still not 100% sure which I'm using, but I wanted to share with you what my original goal was. So once all of those things were popped off, the remaining, the line to point at, can you see those lines? Is going to give me a nice little texture up here in the black, and I'll be able to do what looks like sliding barn doors. Even though mine won't slide, they'll be permanent. One of the reasons I wanted to show you to keep these tips is, check this out. This is absolutely perfect. How cute is that? I've got a couple more sitting here. They've all flown a few places, but that's 4 ends to do each door, but you could also do, you could do it all the way across. You could make those a little longer. I was just trying to use the minimal amount and still get the idea. So I wanted to show these things because they had me pretty excited. You could use either side. One side is really smooth and the other side has some line textures where the zip tie goes. So this is probably how I'm going to do mine. I want to share this too though. You can always take the zip tie, come down, use it as trim, right? Because this almost looks like, what do they call it? Dentil molding or dentil trim. Cut that off to size, and I'm going to do that really quick with these. Oh wait, I may not want to do it with that one. That one's the one I'm using for my bar there. So I'll get another one. Come down here. And these are so easy to cut. My favorite way to cut zip ties is with fingernail clippers because it gets so close to wherever it is you're wanting to cut them. But this is what I had handy. Now, once I had that applied, and I think I might go ahead and just do that. Let's just do that. I'm going to put some glue here. And I feel like I've got a little bit of a rough edge, so I'm just going to take a nail file. It doesn't matter at this point because I'm painting over this with white so that it looks like trim work. Try to get it really close to that bottom. I'm going to grab something to push it flush against that bottom. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And if you wanted to, you could come all the way around to that and do the side edges too. You can see here, this side is already dried and I went ahead and got my first layer of paint over it. And once this side dries, this side I didn't do super well at the bottom of it myself. This is a great way for me to hide any imperfections along those edges. While I'm letting the paint on those dry, I'm going to really quickly, I'm just taking a popsicle stick, a normal size popsicle stick to help me with my spacing for my faux hinges here, and get some glue applied to those. I'm actually using the side that has a little bit of texture to it, I think. I like how that looks, so I'm going to use the textured side. And just use that to kind of help me guide it. And pop that in place. Okay, so for the next step of mine, there's a couple things I want to do. I showed you, you can always take these pieces. If you want to lift your bar, like your little iron bar up off of there and give it a little more dimension, you can always attach them to that. And then I'm bringing in my doors. I'm trying to line them up. And I took just a couple of the plain same popsicle sticks and cut them down to about 1.5 inches. And I think I've got, at a guess, it looks like 4 of them might fit. Now I have no idea just yet what I'm doing for knobs on this. However, I do know that for the 4 of the ends that I cut, I am using them this way under my bar and as my doorknobs rather than as hardware, but I want you to see what that looks like. Also, you could always use some round buttons here in the centers to look like rollers. And that looks pretty good too. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get my drawers adhered down and in place so I kind of know where my doors will be. And I'm just going to go straight down the center of this and then space my doors to each side. So hopefully you guys can see what I've opted to do after showing you so many different options. Rather than use the sliding barn door look, because I know I've got other pieces that I plan on using that for, I went ahead and used that strip as more molding down at the bottom to match what I did at the bases, and just slid my cabinet doors up a little bit. I've got everything glued into place. Although my components, I didn't glue it together as one unit, just in case I want to switch it from house to house and have less room. I have that unit, and then I have this unit. I also opted to add a little trim work here at the top and the bottom of my little doors here, just because my popsicle sticks were a little warped. So I felt that helped clean it up. Got my drawers glued into place. They're drying because I just painted them. And all I have left now is to glue the ends that I clipped off down as handles. And I'll have to wait to do that because that paint's still a little damp itself. But this is what my end piece is. I did also cut part of a paint stick to use up here if I decided to attach these. You can see you could certainly move that around. I am not for sure whether or not I'm going to add that shelf. Either which way, this is pretty much my end result. Hope you had fun watching it, seeing it kind of turn into something, and maybe getting some ideas for yourself of a way to use these Dollar Tree components and create your own entertainment center without a lot of heavy lifting and building. And now all I have to do, I don't want to blind you guys, but all I have left to do is put my TV in there. That's all I've got for you. Bye, y'all.